Hey, welcome to the kitchen today, folks. Hope y'all are having a very good day. We are. Certainly some beautiful weather outside. We're coming to you from the kitchen. The ground's been wet. We've had a little trouble setting up outside and a good situation for you, so we're just going to come to you a few more times from the kitchen. What are we going to talk about today? I'm going to talk about leftovers. Okay? It's something we all get as we go through the week. We all accumulate a little of this, a little of that, some of this. And it's not just the leftovers from what you prepare, it's the leftovers that may come out of your cupboard, such as a little bit of cream or a little bit of onion dip or some rice. Those kind of leftovers is what I'm talking about as well. So in order to utilize these things correctly, or not correctly, efficiently, I guess might be a better word, get you some cookbooks, some literature, some information. I've got a whole shelf full of different type of cookbooks from different people, and don't read them, but familiarize yourself with those cookbooks. All right, because that's how you can utilize these other things. We're going to do a dish today that's going to use rice as one of the primary ingredients. So we get a cookbook here that talks about a chicken and rice dish. We've got a couple of them here about a risotto, a shrimp and rice, different kinds of things. Because what we're going to have to do is take a little bit of ideas from these recipes and we're going to create our own using what we had in the cupboard. And I don't mean anything bad about what I'm going to say, but if you go get a cookbook from one of a big chef, Mario Battaglia, Michael Simon, you get a big cookbook like that. Okay, you have to buy those ingredients in order to prepare the dish. Okay, some of the dishes can have a tendency to be a little exotic. So when you want to reuse stuff like this, I suggest you go get some home type cookbooks. Some cookbooks that have one pot meals, one pot dishes, all different kind of things like that, because your ideas are going to be more inspiring to you as we go. Okay, so what do we have right now that we're going to try to use up? We have a little bit of arborio rice. Now, arborio rice is a rice typically used for a risotto type stuff, but this makes a creamy texture when you do the rice. Okay, we've got just a little bit of grated an Italian cheese, which is basically just regular cheese. We got a little bit of French onion dip. We got a little shaken in the bottom of the cream can. We got a little bit of breakfast sausage and a little bit of asparagus. These things are left over from other things that we did during the course of the week. So we're going to get together and we're going to use these up. So is there a recipe for today's video? No. This is just ideas, talking about how you get ideas, how you become creative, and how you learn to balance different flavors together to utilize everything that you've got. So let's get started browning up this sausage. Okay, folks, let's get this breakfast sausage started. So we want to light up our stove on about a medium high heat. Now this sausage that we got is a beef pork combination. It really doesn't make any difference because in this particular video or demonstration, it's utilizing things that we have. And one of the things that a lot of people comment to me about, or they talk to me about, is being creative. How do you get creative? Well, creative, I think the first thing that starts with creative is not being afraid. Okay? You got to take a chance. You got to jump out there. You got to get it done. The second part is researching things. The internet can be dangerous on some things, but get your cookbooks, get out there, read them like I was saying earlier. I mean, you can't really read a cookbook like you can a novel, but understand some of the things and think about flavors you're blending together. Things that don't typically go together in a recipe may actually go together. And, recipes had to be created by somebody. Somebody had to get out there and put some stuff together in a pan and try it. I mean, and you tried and tried again, and you finally found something that worked. I've got some recipes that I cook regularly that were accidents. Okay, and I know people who have substituted an item and created a whole new recipe. All right, folks, we're getting this sausage kind of browned up here a little bit. Now, you asking me how much sausage? I don't know how much you have left in the refrigerator. This recipe is not going to be that way. This video is going to be about more inspiring you to be creative, get outside the box, make up something. Now, using prepared ingredients like leftover spaghetti or leftover turkey and dressing and some of those, if you got prepared dishes, it's harder to use. So when I say leftovers, I'm really talking about things that you have in the cabinet that are about to go, that some people might just throw away, okay? Because, well, I just have this little bit. Why do I want to keep that? We want to get this sausage out here, but what we're trying to do is leave some of the grease behind, okay? All right, there we go. We got a little bit of grease in there. All right, we kind of zoomed in here on the pan a little bit. You can see we got just a little bit of grease left over in there. We got the fire turned off. So I'm going to step back just a little bit. While I step back, I'm going to talk to you just a little bit. Again, there's no recipe. We're just inspiring everybody to use what you might have in your shelf. Okay, what I'm doing is getting some butter out of the refrigerator, which is behind you. I think everybody knows how to get the butter out of the refrigerator, so I don't have to worry about showing you on that one. We're going to put in here, I'm going to say about a teaspoon of butter, maybe a little bit more than a teaspoon. We're going to turn the fire back on to about a medium. We're going to let this kind of start to melt. As that starts to melt, we're going to add a little bit of our arborio rice. Now, can you use regular rice? Definitely you can. All right, arborio is typically used in a risotto or something like that. It makes it creamy. There's a lot of starch in arborio rice, so it has a tendency to make everything creamy if you do it correctly. Okay, now we're going to brown this just a little. We're only going to heat this up until the butter melts and we kind of smell a nutty flavor coming from the rice. And we're going to dump the rest of that in there. All right, what we did while the sausage was browning, we cut that asparagus into about 1-inch pieces for later. Okay, and so I'm going to stir this fairly often. Get this kind of all toasted up just a little bit. Now, one of the things about inspiration is not being afraid to try something. And I tell people, be creative, experiment around, get out there. It's not just with your cooking, it's with your eating too. You go to a restaurant and, man, you're not a big Thai food guy, you're not a big Chinese person, whatever. You know, go step out there and try a little bit of it. You might be surprised. You know, it was that way with me and sushi. I couldn't stand sushi for a long time, but I never tried it. Just a mental thing about sushi's raw fish. Well, sushi's not raw fish. Sushi is a preparation. And so after I just got out there and finally listened to my wife enough to try it, we gave it a little whirl, and you know what? I don't mind it anymore. Got this rice kind of browned up. I'm starting to smell a little bit of the woody type flavor that's going to come from it. We're going to add just a little bit of water to our pan. I'm going to stir this up and let it kind of make its own gravy, so to speak. Now, most dishes require an onion. Well, you know what? We're not going to use an onion in this. We're going to use the onion substitute in here in just a minute. Like I say, you know, some of the stuff I do, y'all may think, man, this guy's crazy. Try it. You know, try it. Now, we didn't clean any of the sausage drippings out of here at all. We want that flavor to continue in the rice. Now, we want to make sure this is on a good medium heat, simmering. As this liquid starts to get absorbed, we're going to add some more. And you'll see this start to get starchy, milky colored water around this. And this is what we want in this type of dish. Now, if you're doing a regular rice dish, now you prepare rice correctly. But this is an arborio rice intended to be similar to a risotto. Now, I used water. You can use a beef broth, a chicken broth, beef broth, any type of stuff like that, depending on the meat you're putting in here. We didn't have any leftover broth, so we used water. Now, when you add water to this, it's important to add just a little bit of water, or do what I prefer to do and have some water that's near boiling on the stove so that your dish doesn't cool off completely when you go to cook it. All right, you can kind of see how this is getting a little milky color to the water. All right, some of that is the butter, some of that is the drippings from the meat, yes. But a lot of it is the starch that's coming from this rice. It's going to get creamy. You don't want to burn this, you don't want to get it hot. So I'm not going to say you have to stir this constantly, but you need to stir it a fair amount. All right, you saw us add some cream and garlic to this, and this is getting thickened up a little bit. And so we're going to add some ingredients that we don't want to overcook to this too much. Now, we don't have onion, so we're having to use an onion substitute. We got cream in here already, folks. So we got us a little bit of leftover French onion dip that you would sit on the couch and watch TV and put your chips in. We're adding that into our pot. We're going to get a little onion, creamy, herby kind of flavor from that. All right, let's go ahead and add this sausage back in there. And all the goodness. Folks, this stuff out here, this is your flavors. And all of that stuff that's left on here, man, get all that in there. None of that should go to waste. When you got a soup cooking for a long time, a stew or a chili, scrape that little edge off that pan right there because, man, there's a lot of stuff that gets in that. We're going to get this mixed up. We're coming to an end, folks. We did salt and pepper this while the camera was not running. I wouldn't salt this too much at the beginning until you taste it. If you think it needs a little more water to this, add a little more water. Get it the consistency you want. This is a dish you're going to eat. This isn't a dish that you're trying to duplicate a recipe or anything. So, if you think you need to do something, do it. So to that, we're going to add this asparagus that we chopped up. If I don't get it all over everywhere. And I probably did. I dropped one on the floor. That one's going to have to go in the trash can. If I'd have been out on the wagon, folks, we'd just lay there in the grass. All right, we're going to give this a stir. We're going to add just a little more water to this because it's a little thick, in my opinion. We're going to let this come together. And we're going to give this a little taste. It probably does need a little salt. I want to thank y'all for always watching us and staying with us, following us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and the other places that we're at. We just want to, we can't say thank you enough for the people that follow us. This is something that words can't actually describe, and I don't know that thank you is the best way to, I think it's the only way that we can show our appreciation. Is it the best? Probably not. But it's the only thing we can do for you being remote. The last thing we're going to throw in here right near the end is this little bit of cheese. We got a little dab of cheese, about that much. Not really any cheese, but we're going to put it in there anyway. You can see how thick that is. Now, you can't really say that the gravy or the water that's in here is starchy because we added cream and we added some of that other ingredients where they're going to make it a milk type color. All right, folks, we got this stuff coming together really good here. And again, there's no recipe. And the purpose of this video is to tell you just to be creative. Go out there and do what you want to do. Make this as thick or as thin as you want it. Now, I will tell you a couple of things as I bring this up here where you can see it. We've got the cheese, obviously, that's in here. This is going to be a mushy dish. So the asparagus is going to be still a little crispy because you need some texture with this. If you didn't put asparagus in there, you could use a carrot, you could use some celery, don't overcook it. You could use something like that, but you're going to want some texture in this, or it's just going to be like porridge, and it's not going to be very palatable for you to eat. So think about that as you throw things together. Let's get us a little bit of this up here on our plate. And you can see that we got some liquid. It's kind of like gravy in there that's stuck to everything. The cheese is helping that. But we don't want this to be runny in this type of situation. So folks, we've got our leftover ingredient inspired dish. So we've got a creamy risotto with leftover arborio rice. We got some breakfast sausage, some cheese, a little garlic, and some cream that was left over. And since we didn't have onions, we put in that French vanilla soup. Now, all of the things that we added to this are in recipes all throughout cookbooks and the internet. So we know how these flavors are going to taste. Sometimes we don't know how they're going to taste together, if they're going to balance each other perfectly or not. I know it's going to be kind of hot, but I'm going to take a bite. Folks, it needed that asparagus. It needed that texture. It needed the little crispiness of the rice that we toasted. Otherwise, it's going to be like oatmeal, and it's not going to be a meal you're really going to want to enjoy. Now, other ways you could be creative, put some croutons in here. There's a lot of different other options you could do to add texture. But all I want to say in this video is step out of your comfort zone, try it. I put so many things together, my wife will look at me like I've lost my mind. And you know what? I probably have it sometimes with some of the things I put together, because I constantly am thinking about things that are different. How do I take your recipe out of your cookbook or your website and make that my recipe? So folks, own your kitchen, whether it's inside, outside, whether you got a chuck wagon, a Dutch oven, or just cooking on a stove. Own it. Try it. Thank you, and enjoy your food.